I've been editing for a while. I know my channel doesn't show it, and my Twitter activity doesn't support it.
However, did I go to the grocery store today and buy a lean cuisine meal simply because it was blue and shiny and sweet? Absolutely not.
But I've been editing for myself and others for almost 4 years.
But I don't know how to do that!
Dude, I look like a pussy, man. Come on.
18 feet worth of ball getting blasted at you from a cannon.
And in those 4 years, I haven't worked in anything other than Premiere and a little bit of Photoshop. Don't get me wrong, it's not a matter of inexperience or accessibility, since Adobe Suite holds a figurative, and what sometimes feels like a literal, gun to my head every time I open up the applications, but experience. I haven't had a need to learn anything else outside of it because everything I've done, I've taught myself. And everything I've taught myself can be done in-house. Until today. In my quest to improve my editing skills, and continue to bring my overambitious ideas to life, I'm going to use my friend Buffy as a test client, create a fake commission request, and use my knowledge of his likes, dislikes, and branding to make some stream assets, to then force me to learn After Effects and Illustrator. How hard could it be? So, that was a fucking mistake.
If I do it on the spot or if it takes me long, they can't stop me. Even if my brakes was on, I'm still.
Hey, it's been a while, huh? I'm sure you have some questions, like why did it take you 8 months to make a new video? Why are you in everybody's goddamn comment section? This seems really impractical. Why force yourself to learn new programs in such a convoluted way when you can take classes like the rest of us? I've been living up to my degree stereotype by working in an entry-level job in a field I don't care about. I watch an unhealthy amount of YouTube to cope with the ever-increasing loneliness of quarantine, and hi, you must be new here. Have you met me? Have you watched any of my videos? I spent an entire month recreating a 50-second intro from scratch because I thought it would be funny. My entire editing career is fueled by nothing but self-hatred, coffee, and spite. This is so... Designing these assets was difficult. Not because I didn't know how to put together a design document, or because Adobe Suite crashed on me more times than I can count, but because of who Buffy is. At his core, Buffy is a fighting game streamer. His channels post match reactions, his banners are his favorite characters, and his Twitter is mostly battle app. But that's just a facet of who he is. I touched briefly on this in my What I Learned from Astro Kitty video, but as a quick summary, I believe content creators traditionally outgrow the niches they gain popularity in. These niches can often force creators to base their branding on them, in fear of losing their core audience, which in turn devalues them as creators. One such way to avoid this then is to base their branding off elements they control, like editing or personality. Wow, that sounds so fucking boring. In non-nerd speak, while I could have made assets which leaned heavily into fighting games, it was important to strike a balance between how Buffy brands himself and the charismatic and personal person he is behind the scenes.
Yes! Oh! How long have we been playing Dragon Ball FighterZ?
That, and I knew if I did do that, the video would be like 2 minutes long, and since I was gone for 8 months, I needed to make something that was more than just a few small things.
Back off, B. I deadass have these Tims, and if you step on these some bitches, I'm a nut.
Being a staple in Buffy's branding, I knew my first design had to somehow incorporate Goon Bear and their signature Tims. During the initial designs, I envisioned them acting with pseudo-physics, like they did in unofficial stream highlights 4. But I wanted to do something more. I wanted them to act with more weight and realistic movement, to make them feel like they were really there. But things don't always go according to plan. See, the particle emitter is an After Effects preset that is simultaneously the love child of simulator lovers and editors, in that it takes out the majority of grunt work for creating physics for objects and the smallness of Satan.
It's 13, actually.
Got it.
In theory, it's a preset that allows you to set a spawn point for particles to then act within predetermined parameters. In reality, however, I spent literal weeks changing and modifying every component of the emitter to act the way I envisioned, without much result. I could have animated each Tim to individually act how I wanted. I could have written a custom code that programmed the Tims to act within given limits. I could have done a lot of things, but then I realized I could just do what any normal person would do and ignore the problem entirely and replace it with a new idea. What the fuck? And just like that, we have a fully animated, thematically relevant, and visually compelling element. Now all you have to do is do that 4 more times. One of Buffy's favorite Metroidvania games is Hollow Knight, an indie title which chronicles the adventures of a nameless knight exploring an ancient and plague-infested kingdom. While I haven't had the chance to play it, being a broke college grad and all that,
Jock Strap. Hey guys, I'm looking for a jock strap.
As Buffy conquered the kingdom, I slowly fell in love with every other aspect of the game. Every character in that game, from the smallest of cannon fodder creatures to the Lovecraftian end bosses, is beautifully animated, giving a clear sense of what the character is, what they're going to do, and how they're going to do it. I wanted to capture the sense of purpose, but I also wanted each element to be distinct enough from one another. So rather than having the elements appear and disappear like the Dragon Balls, I started designing something that would interact with another element, like the camera frame.
This is it.
Out of the Knight's entire arsenal, I chose the Crystal Heart Charge for 2 major reasons. It's distinct enough within their moveset to be recognized at a moment's notice, and, combined with the game's monochromatic art style, allowed each component to be individually recreated in Adobe Illustrator, with some creative liberties, of course. From there, it was a simple matter of parenting the detail layers to the Knight, adding keyframes to said parent to have it interact with the camera, keyframes from the detail layers to give the animation fluid motion, use some timeline trickery to smooth out the animation, and then adding some crew designs to show how the elements should interact. Of course, all this is dependent on where and when the camera is placed, but that's neither here nor there. Moving on! One of the reasons why I donate to streamers, besides supporting them in their endeavors, is to see my name in the spotlight. From a viewer's perspective, unique elements and designs go a long way in not only distinguishing their favorite streamers, but also fostering a sense of validation and recognition for their contributions, what I refer to as the "hey look ma, I made it" moment.
Random with the fucking fuck off. Jesus Christ, dude, thank you so much.
One such way I've seen streamers encourage this type of behavior then is to have high energy or engaging alerts and or UI elements. These elements don't have to be anything fancy, but when done right, do feed back into those feelings and in turn encourage more donations. Since all this was theoretical, I wasn't sure where, when, or how these elements would be used. So to add some variety and to fill in potential gaps, I wanted this element to focus less on practicality and more on capturing this type of energy, making everyone's favorite universe-destroying pink abomination an obvious choice. Taking a page out of Kirby's design book, I simplified the animation down to its base components, recreated a rough model in Illustrator, modified the appearance with some keyframes and pre-made After Effects, and presto, one high-energy pink puffball. A while ago, I had an idea for a cutaway gag for our client's video. In it, two characters were training against each other in a dojo. The fighters would meet in the center, obscured by light and shadow, fight for half a minute, and then transition to the next scene. For one reason or another, I ended up scrapping the idea, but its creation did help me with this element. Characters in fighting games are limited by their movesets, and their movesets, particularly in older fighting games, are animated by a series of sequential keyframes. So instead of doing some of the arduous tasks I've done in the past, like rotoscoping, keyframing, or custom graphics, I did the only logical thing, and reanimated them myself. Taking a few of Spider-Man's moves from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I planned out a simple animation path, turn the sprite sheet back into individual sprites, splice them back together in Premiere, and with a combination of masking, keyframing, and a few cups of coffee, I ended up with the monstrosity you see on screen. For a while, this is my favorite design. I like the sleek animations of Spider-Man. I like the caveman logic I applied to an infinitely more complex solution. Sorry, give me a second. Can I help you? Yes, I see the things you brought out, and I'm very proud of them. But I'm in the middle of something here. Can I finish with it first? I'm gonna get to you. I just need to create a natural transition between sections of the script. You can't just... Maybe, but I think it's a good visual gag. And like I said, I'll get to... This one doesn't fit within Buffy's aesthetic, but since it's the last one, I gave myself a mulligan on it. Buffy's largest donation now isn't anything special. It's a simple goose quack with a simple gif, only put in because it was funny to him. In contrast to this, I initially drafted a screen-consuming special effect full of particles, lights, and so many sweet visual filters you couldn't see shit.
That means the snap kicks ass! Wow!
Rather than reinventing the wheel, however, and in an incredible feat of laziness, I decided not to do that. I chose to complement the design from Untitled Goose Game because I felt like the art style worked well with the rest of the alerts. In contrast to the white and orange highlights of the goose, the game uses a lot of simple shapes and changes in shade of opposite or complementary colors to have the goose easily recognizable and distinguishable from its environment. In the same way, and because I don't have a drawing tablet, the majority of the elements are mouse drawn, and rely on these techniques to make them work. So after some tweaks to the export settings and file localization, since apparently After Effects has a tantrum if you decide to import anything that isn't an AVI file into it despite being part of the same design suite, the goose was rigged up with a few tools, effectively giving it rudimentary joints. There, I talked about you. Can I do my conclusion now? Thank you. Abrupt sponsorship transition says what? Fun fact, this video was rewritten and re-edited 6 different times, which is one of the reasons why there's such a disparity between the clips, if you've been paying attention to the time codes. Thankfully, I have a sponsorship for this video that's been riding my ass to get it done so they never have to deal with me again. Joke's on them, they're stuck with me. This video was sponsored in part by me, because I'm currently unemployed. Please hire me. Obviously, I've made everything you've seen in this video, but if you're interested in any of the assets, there's a link in the description to a Google Drive folder next to my socials, where you can reach out to me if you have any questions about setup, rights, fair use, and all that jazz. And if you're interested in any of the channels I borrowed from, there are links in the description to all of them. They're all really good people, and I highly recommend checking them out. And if you're watching this video on or before June 10th, 2021, I'm going to be doing a birthday live stream. The stream starts right here at 9 p.m. EST, where I'll be talking about this video, some behind-the-scenes details, and ending the night with some Titanfall 2. I've got a few more projects in the back burner, but I promise you the next one won't take 8 months. Maybe.